All right, awesome. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I know a lot of you registered last minute, which is great, but I want to welcome you to our exclusive virtual event, our business planning strategies for the new market. On behalf of Young Professionals Network here for NCJAR, happy to have you here. This event is pivotal to our commitment to empowering our members with the tools, knowledge, and insights necessary for success in this ever evolving real estate market. We understand that staying ahead in our industries requires not just hard work, but strategic planning and deep understanding. This is why we're here today, and hopefully we can equip you, for a prosperous 2024. So the session we have, lined up, it's going to be full of valuable insights, expert advice, and actionable strategies that'll really help you excel, with market dynamics and information for next year. So I want to introduce Jeff Glover. He is a top producing real estate agent, a visionary and leading voice in the industry. His achievements and contributions as a Glover U coach have set standards in real estate coaching and mentorship. I've personally followed Jeff for quite a long time on his podcasts, and I've attended his planning events. So
I got one
I'm
in front of me. We just finished one up.
yes,
I'm in
yes.
Houston right now, so we just finished up about a half hour ago.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like I'm in an infomercial. Um, but and I thought, what a great idea to have Jeff come in here, given the dynamics of the market. So, alongside Jeff, I know he's got a team of experts from Glover U. They bring their unique perspectives. Taylor Kerrigan was one of the coaches, and his executive assistant from way back when, that's still with him and his team that I got connected with. And here we are today. So, without further ado, let's get started because I know we have Jeff for a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
But reminder, we are recording this. We
Yep.
will share it, and any Q&A you have, please submit it. But I will be watching the chat as well. So let's get started, Jeff. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I'm excited to be here, and I know we started a few minutes late, so we're still going to go right to the. We'll go to the top of the hour if that works for you guys. So that way we get at least a full 45, 50 minutes. And if anyone's got to hop off, then feel free to do so. But a couple things I want to share. So, um, as Joanne mentioned, I'm in the field with you, and I think that's probably one of the first things I want to get out of the way, because I know if this is your first time hearing from me, then you might think, well, what are we going to learn from this guy? Everyone's these trainers and coaches, and they're like a dime a dozen today. And so I'll answer that right off the bat. I'm in it with you. I know what you're going through. In the last decade, I've personally listed and sold over 100 homes per year myself. Our team in Detroit did 982 units last year with just 31 salespeople. So we don't have like this big team of hundreds of agents. And so I'm in the trenches. I know what you're going through. And I put together a list of 5 really key areas that we're focusing on for 2024. So that way we don't just kind of make it through, but we actually take market share in 2024. And so if you want to write these down, I'm going to share with you. And it's actually kind of a mix. You saw Joanne there hold up the business plan, because this is a 3.5 hour session, which, by the way, you can get this entire plan. If you go to gloveru.com, you'll find it on the site somewhere. I think it's gloveru.com/plan, or just download the Glover U app. There's all sorts of free resources in the Glover U app. So that way you can get your hands on this plan. But for now, I'm going to give you kind of like, I'm going to grab the best of the best on the plan, because I think when I look at 2024, what we need to do differently, certainly what got us to a certain level of success in 2021, 2022 is not the same as it is in 2023, 2024. So what are we doing differently? Well, number one, I broke it down into 5 steps, by the way. Number one, and I'm going to get this one out of the way because you're all producers. You've all been doing this for some time. You've heard this a million times. So let's just get this first one out of the way. But I actually think it's more important today than it's ever been. And that is mindset. All right. So number one is mindset. Now I know you've heard that. Oh yeah, I know I got to have a strong mindset. You might even be rolling your eyes. Like, is this another speaker about mindset? And by the way, I'm normally like more on the tactics side, and we're going to get into some tactics in a second. But what do I mean by mindset? Well, what I mean by mindset is right now, how do you look at what's happening in the market and what's happening in the real estate industry? What's your mindset towards that? I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with a coaching client not too long ago, and they were kind of complaining about what's going on in the market. Oh my gosh, agents are quitting, listings aren't selling, days on market is going up, prices are falling. And after they got done complaining, I responded with, don't you just love that? That was my response. I said, "Don't you just love that?" And there was like this awkward silence. Like, what? What does he mean by don't you just love that? What huh? And I actually respect this person because instead of saying, "Oh yeah, you're right. I got to have a strong mindset." Yeah, I love it. He actually asked me, "What do you mean by that? Like, what do you actually mean by don't you just love that?" And so I shared with them, and I won't mention their name. I shared with them back in 2005. That was like the last peak in the market. Obviously, 2021 was crazy. I don't even call that a peak. I call 2021 ridiculous. All right. That's not even a peak. That's like something unheard of. '05 was like the last peak in the market. And in 2005, we had 1.5 million realtors, according to NAR. That same year, we had about 5.5 million home sales. Fast forward 5 years to 2010. Market's in the tank, economy's in the tank. Everyone's filing for bankruptcy. I mean, I'm in Detroit, so like GM, Ford, all those, everything was like flat. NAR went from 1.5 million realtors to 897,000 in 5 years, just like that. 40% of the industry, it's like 38%, whatever. 40% of the industry gone. However, sales, they went from 5.5 million to 4.6 million in that same time frame. So certainly significant. I mean, that's like 22, 23%. However, the number of home sales pales in comparison to the number of agents that got out of the business. So what does that mean? That actually means for this group, for these 54 participants and whoever's watching this later, there's actually more to go around when a market gets softer. So I think one of the biggest mistakes, or one of the things that comes to mind when I think of mindset in this market, you make your own market. I don't care what's going on out there. Yes, we have to pay attention to what's happening out there, but you make your own market. And so what do I mean by that? Well, we certainly have to take into consideration what's going on in the market, right? If sales are down 30%, like for instance in Detroit, sales are down like 25, 30%. Well, then that just means, first of all, I don't have to accept that my business is going to be down 25 to 30%. What do? That means I have to make 25 to 30% more contacts, because 25 to 30% more contacts will turn into 25 to 30% more appointments. And 25 to 30% more appointments will turn into 25 to 30% more contracts. And 25 to 30% more contracts will turn into 25 to 30% more closings. And if I'm doing that and the market's down 30%, then I'm going to be flat. By the way, if your business is flat this year, you actually have a reason to celebrate. If you're like, man, I sold 20 houses in 2022 and I'm only going to do 19 this year, I'm only going to do 21 this year, you actually just took market share because there's less sales taking place. So anyways, so what I want you to think about in 2024 is I want you to have a prescription for a strong mindset. I want you to actually write yourself a prescription for a strong mindset. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, I want you to think of your mind like a muscle. No different if you wanted to have a bigger bicep. All right. You'd work on curls, you'd eat spinach like Popeye or whatever. You do these things to have a big biceps. Well, if I want to have a strong mindset, if I'm treating my mind like a muscle, what can I do to exercise my mind? So here's a couple of things I recommend. Once a day, you should be listening to a podcast. I don't care whether it's ours or somebody else's. By the way, our podcast is the Live Unreal podcast by Glover U. You can find that in all the podcasts. I don't care who's you're listening to. I want every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Friday, I want something positive going into your mind. Podcasts are 20, 30 minutes. They drop a new episode usually once a week. There's great ones out there. I want you to start listening to podcasts once daily. Next, what I want you to do, I want you to stop watching the news and reading threads in Facebook groups. Get out of the Facebook groups. All right. The Facebook groups are not productive. The Facebook groups are not are there's negativity, there's gossip, there's drama. Now we have a Facebook group. It's the Glover U Inner Circle. We don't allow negativity. I mean, it is you if there's a negative post, boom, gone. So limit the amount of time you spend in Facebook groups. Next, I want you to quit hanging around negative people. There's going to be people that you encounter that one reason or another. Sorry if you guys can hear that chime. Let me get rid of the Facebook in the background here. I got Messenger going off. Sorry about that. I want you to stop hanging around negative people. There's going to be people. By the way, the fastest way to get out of a negative conversation is to not respond. Right? There's like an old quote. I forgot exactly how it goes, so I'm probably going to butcher it. The the fastest way to take a drama filled person's train of thought and what they're trying to do is to not respond. Just be in silence. Don't engage. Next, I don't want you to be attached to the outcome. Okay, that's a challenge right now. We're oftentimes attached because we don't know when our next deal is, our next listing. We can't be attached to the outcome. Being attached to the outcome creates this anxiety. It creates this, this feeling of being anxious. You cannot be attached to the outcome. If you want to have a stronger mindset, I want you to get to real estate conferences. All right. There's a reason why top producers get to conferences to be around other top producers. All right. Whether it's our conferences or somebody else's, all of our stuff is listed at gloveru.com. You can find all of our stuff. But I want you getting out of your environment. I want you hopping on a plane. I want you going to EWR and taking a flight, to Orlando or to Phoenix, to Vegas, wherever. Get around conferences. Get around people that are succeeding at a high level. So I want you to really take a look at when you get into 2024, what is my prescription for a strong mindset? That's number 1. Number 2, I want you to write down, and this is something that we're bringing back a massive focus on with our team. I want you to take a look at what am I doing to improve my overall sales skills in 2024? What am I doing to improve my overall sales skills in 2024? Because watch this, in a hot market, you don't need sales skills. In a hot market, deals just fall in your lap. In a hot market, sellers sell, buyers buy. You just got to figure out how to get in the way. In a soft market like we're heading into, sales skills are something that consumers value, especially on the seller side. If you want to be more of a listing agent, sellers value a salesperson. You're selling their most valuable asset. So they want you to be a great salesperson. And by the way, when I say sales skills, I'm not talking like cheesy sales lines from the 80s and 90s. All right. When I'm talking about sales skills, what I'm referring to is this. I call them the modern sales skills. And there's actually 3 things that you have to be really good at to have modern sales skills. Ready? Number 1, this is what I call modern sales skills and what I want you to be good at in 2024. Asking great questions in a methodical order. Sales skills doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be feared. It doesn't need to be dated. Asking great questions in a methodical order. Number 1. Number 2, actively listening to their answers. Actively listening to their answers. Now, I know as you're writing that down, you're thinking, come on, you guys got this guy to tell me I need to be a better listener. Like, don't we have better stuff to do here? Isn't there other tactics he can share? Don't worry. I'm going to get to the fun stuff. All right. The social media and the video and all that's coming up. I promise. So what do I mean by actively listen? Well, watch. Okay. I can prove to you that you're not as good of a listener as you think you are. Watch this. In the last 90 days, have you met someone in the last 90 days? We've all met at least one person in the last 90 days. Have you met someone in the last 90 days where you looked them in the eye, you shook their hand, you introduced yourself, they introduced themselves to you, and within 10 seconds, you forgot their name? That ever happened to anybody? It's happened to all of us. Do you know why that happens? That happens because you're not actually listening to what they're saying. Instead, you're thinking about what you're going to say next. The exact same thing takes place in a sales situation. You're not actually listening to your clients. You're thinking about what you're going to say. You're thinking about what the script says that you should say. Asking great questions in a methodical order is number 1. By the way, those are AKA good scripts and dialogues. All right. You can get all of our scripts. They're all online. If you download the GloverU app, they're there. They're free. Take advantage of them. Number 2 is actively listening to their answers. And number 3 is going to help you with that. Ready? Number 3, I want you to write down go 3 deep. Write down go 3 deep. What does go 3 deep mean? Go 3 deep means I want you to go 3 questions deep within each question on the script. Now, it doesn't have to be every question, but what I mean by that is, for instance, if you see a question on the script that says, where are you moving to? Usually the next question after that is, when would you like to be there? All right. Where are you moving to? And then the next question is usually, when would you like to be there? What I'm suggesting you do before you go to when would you like to be there, what I'm suggesting you do is you ask the question, where are you moving to? And you follow that up with what takes you there? And you follow it up with who else do you know there? And you follow that up with how long have you been planning a move there? You're going to ask 2 to 3 questions within the questions on the script to not only show that you're listening and build rapport, but guess what? You're going to have a higher level of rapport with the next person because the next guy or gal is just following a basic question script. So when I think about sales skills, I want you to think about asking great questions in methodical order. That's AKA today's scripts. Ours are all updated every 18 months. Why are they updated every 18 months? Because I'm in the trenches with you. I'm in the field with you. I know what you're going through. Number 2 is actively listening to their answers. And number 3 is asking 3 questions deep, going 3 deep. That's number 2. I got 5 things I'm going to share with you. The third thing, ready? The third thing to pay attention to or to focus on in 2024, it's going to be your presentation skills. Your presentation skills. And by the way, I'm not just talking about your listing presentation. I'm not just talking about your buyer appointments. What I'm referring to is what a consumer sees online, on Instagram, on Facebook about you. Because watch this. There was a day where an agent would go on an appointment and a consumer would make a decision of who they're hiring after they've interviewed all those agents, right? When the market gets softer, by the way, guess what happens? Buyers start interviewing buyers agents again. When the market gets softer, sellers start interviewing not one or two agents. They interview three or four or five. And so guess what they're going to do before you come out? They're going to research you. Back in the day, consumers made their decision after you left their home. Back in the day, consumers made their decision after the buyer consultation was over. Today, half of their mind is made up based on what they see online. So does your Instagram, if I pull up your Instagram and your website side by side, do they look the same? Similar colors, similar logos, similar scheme? Does it look consistent? Your Facebook, does it look consistent? By the way, I know, especially with YP, I'm a YP. I'm 39 years old, so I'm just barely classified as YP. I know my YPs say, "Oh, Jeff, you're such a dinosaur. I can't believe you spend so much energy on Facebook." Well, listen, I'm a listing agent. I take 7 to 10 listings per month. Do you understand the largest demographic of home sellers today is 35 to 54-year-olds? That's the largest demographic of home sellers today. I focus on sellers. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have Instagram or whatever, but my focus is on Facebook. Why is my focus on Facebook? Largest demographic of sellers, 35 to 54-year-olds. Largest demographic user of social media of all platforms, Facebook, 35 to 54-year-olds. So I'm at where the sellers are. All right. So don't knock Facebook, you youngsters. I'm kidding. I can say that because I'm barely one. Okay. All right. So number three is your presentation. I gotta know that. Listen, I'm going deep. I'm going 2 to 3 pages deep on Google when I search your name. Put your first name, your last name, and real estate. First name, last name, realtor on Google. Hit search and go 2 to 3 Google searches deep. And I want you to click. There we go. Yep, Reggie. I want you to click. I want you to click on every single link and look at what you find. And know that every seller that's going to be interviewing you to sell your house is going to be doing the same thing before you show up. Their mind is already halfway made up when you get there. Your presentation skills. Now, we don't have the time to get into your actual listing appointment or your buyer appointment, but watch this. Just as an example, every single one of you should be updating your listing presentation, your buyer consultation material annually. Why? Well, first of all, things change, the industry changes, the market changes. I'll give you, for instance, if your marketing material, when you go on a listing appointment today, like has one little box that says, "Oh yeah," has like a Facebook and Instagram and a TikTok and all those logos in it. Maybe that was your thing for last year, but this year I want to know specifically what you're going to do to promote my home on Instagram. I want to know specifically what you're going to do to promote my home on Facebook. I want to know specifically what you're going to do to promote my home on TikTok. I want to know more specifics. So, anyways, every year we're taking a look at our buyer consultation material and our listing presentation material, and we're updating it. I suggest you do the same. All right, that's number three. Number four, social media and video. Social media and video. All right. Now, here's the good news. Because we're YP, I know a lot of you guys got social media figured out at a high level. So I don't have to spend a ton of time on this. However, there's a couple things I want to make sure I point out. Okay. Number one, most of you guys should know this by now, but just write this down. Hamburger, not hot dog. Just write it down. I'll explain. Hamburger, not hot dog. You guys are still doing this. All right. My older crowd does this all the time, but even some of my YPs still do this. Hamburger, not hot dog. What do I mean by that? Hamburger, no hot dog. Stop taking photos like this. Photos have to be vertical. Why? Because everything you do on social media is vertical. Nothing, you don't scroll side to side on Instagram and Facebook. That's like Bumble or whatever, right? You're gonna go up and down. So therefore, every time you turn your camera like this, you're automatically hurting your engagement on social media. That's number one. The next thing I want you to write down on our social media is taco selfies. Just write it down. I'll explain. Taco selfies. What do I mean by taco selfies? Okay, think about it like this. If this is hamburger and this is hot dog, how do you eat a taco? All right, you don't eat a taco like num 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 straight on. You eat a taco like kind of on an angle. Why? Because stuff falls out, it catches in your plate. When you're taking selfies, I want you to tilt your camera a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. It is proven that selfies on an angle will get more engagement than a straight on selfie. Taco selfies moving forward. By the way, close up on faces are always going to get more engagement, anyways. All right. The next thing I want you to write down on under social media is follow the copywriting formula. There we go. Yep. Taco selfies all the way. Follow the copywriting formula. Okay. I'm going to share it with you now. Some of you are already doing it, thankfully, because you've been to our events or maybe you've listened to our podcast. But what I want you to get really good at, since I know most of you know how to use TikTok and how to create reels and so forth, we're not going to get into the specifics on those. But here's what I am noticing, especially with all age groups, is you're just taking out a camera and you're hitting record and you're just talking. You're introducing yourself. There's no real rhyme or reason for what you're talking about. Moving forward, I want you to follow a formula. So write this down. Just write down copywriting formula. Copywriting formula. Step one, always start with a hook. Step one, always start with a hook. So what do I mean by that? Something catchy, something edgy, something to like catch me off guard. Like for instance, a hook right now could be, I bet you thought right now was not a great time to buy. Okay, you're right. Who's buying right now? Or another hook could be, who would want to buy at interest rates at 8%? That's a hook. Another one could be, um, my buyers actually saved money on a house, right? You got to think of things that are kind of catchy, things that are designed to stop the scroll. All right. By the way, if you want to write down gloveru.com/social, this has a list of all the hooks you could use. I did the heavy lifting for you. I got 80 hooks for you in there. gloveru.com/social. So step one is always start with a hook. Step two, you introduce yourself. Always introduce yourself second. Do not start off by introducing yourself. When you start off by introducing yourself, you're already telling social media that you're about to sell them something. So stop doing that. Start with a hook. Get me engaged. Get me logged in. Get me wanting to watch this thing. So you introduce yourself second. Number three, write down supporting information. Supporting information. I got to support the hook. If I'm going to say something like, I bet you thought right now is not a great time to buy, I got to come back and support it. I got to come back and say, for it, I bet you thought right now is not a great time to buy. Hi, I'm Realtor Jeff Glover. And right now is actually one of the best times to buy because buyers are getting offers accepted at $5, $10, or even $15,000 under the asking price. We haven't seen this in years. For instance, okay, so that's step four is give me an example or testimonial. Step four is give me an example or a testimonial. For instance, I just had a buyer close. We got $15,000 off the asking price, $15,000 in concessions. And then step five is your call to action. For results like those, give me a call today. For results like those, DM me now. For results like those, click below. You always have a call to action at the end. So moving forward, when you're writing copy or you're putting, video out there, I want you to follow the copywriting formula. It's in that guide, the gloveru.com/social guide. I went through it fast because I gave you all the copy of the guide for free. So you can go find that. All right. Last couple of things I want to say about social media. I'm going to make kind of a bold statement here. Um, if your idea of being great at social media is posting Canva images, you're going to fall behind in about 18 months. Okay, we don't even we limit the amount of Canva we use. Why? Because the minute you put something out there that has words, phrases, a .com, all of that, you're automatically telling your audience, and you're more importantly telling Zuckerberg on Instagram and Facebook that you're trying to sell their audience something. Canva images are on the way out. All right, so limit the use of those. If you are going to use Canva, make sure you're at least writing good copy. All right, so number four is master social media video and get good at writing copy. Finally, number five, building a database. I want everyone to focus on building a massive database and adding value in 2024. Meaning every day you're adding someone to your database. Watch, if you add one person per day times 250 working days, 250 people added in a year. In 4 years, you're going to have 1,000 people in your database. People that know you, like you, trust you, and will be referring you. All right, so I want you to set a goal to add one person to your database per day. Next, I want you to set a goal to add one thing of value per month. All right, so I'm asking you for two things here. Number one, I want you to add one person per day. And number two, I want you to add one thing of value to your database per month. And by the way, if you think adding value is sending reminders for them to set their clocks back on a standard email, you're not adding value. It's got to be something that stands out. It's got to be things that are unique. It could be a call. It could be a video text. It could be an event, something of value. So something that's keeping you in front of your database and actually adding value. I know there's 33 touches and all these other things out there to add value to database. I don't care what you use. I don't care what CRM you use. I don't care about your auto drip campaigns. That's fine. You can keep all those going. But at a minimum, I want you adding one thing of value per month. January, February, March, April. Don't skip a month. Every month you do one thing of value. In January, you call and you wish everyone a happy new year, and you use the I have a goal script. I have a goal to help 30 families buy or sell a home here in Detroit over this year. And I was wondering, who do you know that could use my help? In February, maybe you've identified the top 6 restaurants in your market for Valentine's Day. Hey, these are the hottest restaurants. I wanted to share them with you before they book up. Don't forget to book in advance. Otherwise, you're going to be eating at home in ramen noodles or whatever, right? Each month, you're adding something of value to your database. So if I look at what I'm going to focus on in 2024, I'm going to make sure that I'm exercising my mindset muscle. I'm going to make sure that I'm building my sales skills back if I've had them before and maybe I got away from it, or I'm going to build them up if I haven't. By the way, how do you build great sales skills? Don't laugh. I know it sounds old fashioned. I know it sounds traditional, but do you know if you came to Detroit right now? So we've been the number one home selling team in the state of Michigan for 11 years, all brands, all brokerages. If you came to Detroit right now and you asked our competitors, all right, what's Jeff and his team doing? You'd hear things like this. It's so weird. He actually makes them like write scripts and he actually makes them like chant them aloud. I was in Jeff's office once for a closing, and all I heard was this yelling and screaming. And I went back to the bathroom to see what was going on, and they're all standing up like zombies with scripts in front of their faces, reading them aloud. Why do we do that? Because we want to be the best trained salespeople in our market. And if you're the best trained salespeople in your market, then guess what? You're going to want to go out and present because you know your listing appointment is dialed in. You're going to actually want to call back that lead right away because you know you can convert it. By the way, speaking of conversion, I'm going to give you some bonus material under sales skills. Um, has anybody heard in the last 3 months, buyer wants to wait until interest rates come down? Has anyone heard that? We all have. So I'm going to give you 3 responses. Get ready to write. All right. I know this is being recorded, so you can probably go back and watch it, but get ready to write this down. Next time a buyer tells you they want to wait until interest rates come down, I want you to say, number 1, what happens if you wait and they go up? What happens if you wait and they go up? And then I want you to put in parentheses next to that and give an example. Everyone has an example. You all have an example of someone that you were working with a year or 2 ago that maybe put their search on hold and now re-entered the market and now they're paying a higher interest rate. Now, normally they're like, well, we still want to wait. Okay, now this is the good, this one's going to help you. Ready? Number 2. So when they say to you they want to wait until rates come down, I want you to write this down. You're the blank line. You're the blank line, and I'll tell you what to put on the blank line. You're the blank line person this week that has told me that. And can I tell you why that concerns me? You're the 7th person this week that has told me that. And can I tell you why that concerns me? You're the 7th person this week that's told me that. And can I tell you why that concerns me? If everyone is waiting for rates to come down, what do you think that will do to prices of homes when they finally do come down? What do you think that'll do to demand? What do you think that'll do to demand and prices of homes when they finally do come down? And then just put in parentheses, reference 2021, because you can say, we already saw this happen. The last time rates came down was 2021. We saw ridiculous rates in 2021. And what happened? Buyers were paying $30, $40, $50, $60,000 over the asking price, over appraisal to go get that low interest rate. So if you're waiting till rates come down like everyone else, what do you think that's going to do to home prices? And then so I'm going to ask a closing question, or I'm going to give a suggestion. I'm going to say, wouldn't you rather buy now? Wouldn't you rather buy now when prices are fair and refinance later? Wouldn't you rather buy now while prices are fair and refinance later? Dot, dot, dot. One more sentence to put a little bow on this one. Dot, dot, dot. Wouldn't you rather buy now and refinance? Buy now while prices are fair and the market's a little softer and refinance later? Or wait like everyone else and pay more? No, you don't want to do that. Because watch, write this down. You can always refinance a mortgage. You cannot renegotiate a purchase price. You can always refinance a mortgage, but you cannot renegotiate a purchase price. So think about all those buyers that put 20, 30, 40, $50,000 over appraisal. They ain't getting that money back. But if you buy today at an 8% rate and they go down to 6, you can refinance. That's the second response. I'm going to give you a third. If they're still not getting it, if they're still like, yeah, we're still going to wait. Okay, if this doesn't work, then they're just lying to you at this point. So I'm going to ask, all right, you still want to wait? That's fair. Um, if you don't mind me asking, at what interest rate would you be comfortable buying at? At what interest rate would you be comfortable buying at? And you're still going to have some people be silly with that. They're, oh, 3%. Da, 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 da. Okay, realistically, at what rate? Well, Jeff, we'd feel more comfortable if rates were like in the sixes right now. Okay, so let's just say 6.5. Yeah, we'd feel much better if they were 6.5, and we'll probably wait until they come down to that level. Okay. So my question is, if I could get the seller to buy your rate down to 6.5%, would you still want to wait? If I could get the seller to buy your rate down to 6.5%, would you still want to wait? Now you could figure out the math. Now I'm in Detroit, so don't laugh. Our average sales price is 300,000. So to buy the rate down to 6.5%, it's only like 10, 11 grand. But still, even if it's 15 or 20 grand, it's still probably worth it because you can get that in concessions. We're starting to see concessions left and right in most markets around the country. If I could get the seller to buy your rate down to that, would you still want to wait? Now, at that point, here's what you're going to hear. Well, the truth is, okay, here comes the real objection. The truth is, we can't afford to buy right now, or we need to save up more down payment, or whatever it is. Either way, next time you hear, we want to wait until rates come down, I want you to follow those three scripts in your responses. You're going to get more people that are like, all right, we'll go look at houses, or all right, we'll go buy now. You're going to get more people that are going to say yes to you by using those. And the only other thing I would say as it relates to sales skills on the seller side, you better make sure when you go on appointments, you're letting them know that once you take their listing, one of three things will happen because it's going to help you get a price reduction later. Every single listing I take today, before I leave their house, I'm delivering the script. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it's important that you know once we list your property, one of three things will happen. Number one, we're going to have a lot of showings, we're going to have a lot of interest, and that's a good thing. Or number two, we're going to get some showings and some interest, but no offers. And that means we started just a little high. Or number three, worst case scenario, we get little to no showings and certainly no offers. And that means we've definitely started too high. What I'm doing is I'm planting the seed for a price reduction 2 to 3 weeks from now. They're more likely to give you the price reduction 2 to 3 weeks from now when you planted that seed at the listing table. So both of those scripts for sellers and buyers were recorded. Those are the ones you should be mastering right now. And you guys can go back and watch that later. So number one's mindset. Number two is your sales skills. Number three is your presentation skills. Number four is social media and video. And number five is building your database. Those should be your five focuses in 2024. Those are ours. Our goal is to sell over 1,000 houses in 2024. So, and we're going to be focusing on those five things, and I'd recommend you do the same. So, my watch says it's 3:43 Eastern time. So let's open it up for questions. And I'm here for you guys for as many questions as you'd like.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for that. That was fantastic. I definitely have some starter questions since we got you here. And even though you're in the Detroit market, right at the end of the day, we're still seeing, the same buyer trends and behaviors, right?
Yep.
And, in regarding the business plan, I'm just curious what do you think are the biggest risks that real estate professionals might face in 2024? And, how do you think we can mitigate those?
Well, I think the biggest risk is getting, especially with my YP group, thinking that social media is going to be your number one source of business. I think that's one of the biggest challenges agents are seeing in the software market. Social media itself isn't doing as well as it was like maybe a year or two ago. And so I think the biggest risk real estate agents have is focusing in on just one source of business. And so that's why I'm suggesting either take your database more seriously or add expires or add for sale by owners. Um, in the last 90 days, we've listed 93 expired listings in Metro Detroit. In the last 90 days, 93. Why? Because there's more available now because listings aren't selling. So you got to find a source of business that might be more plentiful. And listen, obviously I just gave advice on social media. So it's something we're focusing on, but it's not the only thing. So I think the biggest risk is thinking that the majority of your business is going to come from social media in this new market.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? Because even as you said, oh, Facebook, maybe for the older folks, but I think I saw a lot of my colleagues and in myself, right? You have to go back to the basics
Mhm.
when, something is so saturated. So, door knocking, if you have the right, solicitation
Yep,
permits,
yep,
some mailers, right?
yep,
Everyone's kind of oversaturated in their inbox in emails. So,
yeah.
again, yeah,
Text
social media
message,
is great, but
video
not.
messages. Yeah, we're sending a video message to every single expired in our market, just asking sellers if they're still accepting offers on their home. Super short and sweet. Hey, this is Realtor Jeff Glover. I was just wondering if you're still accepting offers on your home. If you are, could you give me a call back? Thanks. Bye. Send.
I love it. I love it. Um, regarding just buyer and seller behavior, right? You just went through these great prompts for us to, go back to on people waiting for the rates to go down. But based on your experience, how do you anticipate, the behavior of buyers and or sellers changing in the upcoming year? And if there's a strategy you've used or you think would be, effective to cater to these
Yeah.
behaviors?
So buyers are going to start being, when buyers are paying high interest rates and the market softens because they feel like they hold the cards because less listings are selling. And so, how do I mitigate that with buyers? Again, it's going to sound old fashioned and it's going to sound traditional, but we go back to doing more buyer consultations because in the hot market, we didn't have time for them. It was just, we better go see it within the next hour or it's going to be gone. And then by the time we write an offer, they didn't take our advice on the offer. And you're like, oh, shoot, if I would have had a buyer consultation, then I would have been able to tell them things they can do to get their offer accepted, but we didn't have time for that. So putting more time and energy into a buyer consultation is going to save you a lot of time and hassle later with buyers. And with sellers, the biggest thing is price reductions. They're going to be upset with you when their home doesn't sell for what you told it would sell for. So you always have to leave yourself an out during the listing appointment, which is the script I just gave. That's the biggest thing with sellers. Price reductions.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. I mean, pricing it right is always our argument, right? But so I know I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. I do have one last question. I'd be
Yeah.
remiss if I didn't ask it. But in regarding market predictions, what are your predictions for the housing market? And
Yeah.
how do you foresee factors like
Yeah.
the interest rates and the economic
Uh-huh.
trends influencing the market?
Well, I will tell you, and listen, I told the group today in Houston, I like to tell people when I'm right, but I don't tell people when I'm wrong. So I told them today that I made the prediction that the sales would be down this year by 30%. And in most markets, they're down somewhere between 20 and 40%. And so my prediction for next year is that closings will be down another 15% on top of the 30% that they were already down in most markets. So my advice to most agents is if whatever sales are going to be down by, like if they're down by 30 and 15, that means you have to increase your daily contacts by that amount to offset. So the advice I gave in the fall of last year was if sales are going to be down 30% in 2023, you need to increase your daily contacts by 30%. So now what I'm saying is if you didn't increase your daily contacts and they're going to be down another 15%, then you're going to need to increase your daily contacts by 45%. So if right now you're averaging 10 contacts a day, you're going to need to go to 14 or 15. Right now, if you're at 20 a day, you're going to need to go to 27 or 28. If you're only at 5 a day, all right, you're going to have to bump it up to 7 or 8. But if you're at 5 a day, you're probably not selling as many homes as you'd like, anyways. So that's my biggest thing. Prices, I have no idea what's going to go on with prices because it all hinges on the inventory. So it's kind of crazy. The prices should have been coming down for the last year, and they haven't been. And we're starting to see that in some pockets in some price ranges, but they have to come. I mean, unless interest rates go down, you understand this is all out the window. If interest rates go back to 5%, not back to, but if they go to 5, 6%, same frenzy. That's why I have no problem telling buyers, like, you're crazy for waiting for rates to come down.
Yeah.
Because if they go down to 5 or 6%, we're going to see multiple offer situations, all this stuff all over again.